Hey there, gang. Lauren here, Mrs. Tomato Head, and I am here to talk about one of my favorite things in the tomato world, and that is micro dwarf tomatoes. Um, and I'm specifically how to grow them indoors when it is wintertime and we are all aching for tomatoes because our gardens have been put to bed and things are looking gray and dreary outside. I have, for the last couple of years, have been growing micro dwarf tomatoes indoors using grow lights. And, something like this can give you things that look like this in the winter. Um, this one here is called Room Surprise Chocolate. It's the first time I'm growing that. These are a new variety called Zusa Louise, Sweet Louise, which is delicious yellow micro. Um, this is Candy Berry, which I've got both of these I've got growing over there under those grow lights, which I'll show you in a minute. These beautiful things are called B times Macbeth. It's a variety by Tom Wagner. I've recently started growing these and saving seeds because they were almost extinct. They're also a long keeper, so they will keep on your in a bowl very long. They just get a little wrinkly, but they're still good, and gives you so many tomatoes. So, and this is called Dwarf Patio Plum, which Tomato Eden has, tomatoeden.net, and the plant looks like this, and it is a delicious red. So the sky's the limit when it comes to micro dwarf tomatoes. If you're in my group, Tomato Lovers Collective and Swap, and if you're not, you should join us. We're a great collective for tomato enthusiasts all over the world. We do swap seeds, but we're also educational and fun and kind and generous, and we are great for beginners to expert. But we grow a lot of micro dwarf tomatoes. So we are starting our second annual, we call it MICROPALOOZA in the group. Last year we did it starting November 1st, last year being 2023. And we grew throughout the winter, and it was really just a no pressure way to have fun, share photos with each other about our progress. And then at the end, the big reward being delicious micro dwarf tomatoes in January, February, when we really want them. So I want to show you how I grow them indoors. And I wanted to do this, it's now August. I wanted to do this now so you have ample time, if it's this time where you are right now, when you're watching this rather. I want you to see how I do it start to finish. And it's not the only way, but I want to show you that is my cat trying to get attention. That's Rory the Wonder Cat. Excuse me. She likes to have attention when I'm on camera. So I want to, it's certainly not the only way to do it, but I've done this a long time. I keep also, if you're in the group, I keep a master spreadsheet for micro and mini dwarfs. I suppose I should start with what a micro dwarf and what a mini dwarf is. So micro dwarf tomatoes are basically things that don't get a whole lot taller than this. There's no one regulation as to how high a micro dwarf gets, or tall rather. But I kind of use it from 0 inches tall to, I would say, 12 inches tall would be considered a micro dwarf, and anything from 12 to 14 inches tall to 24 inches would be a mini dwarf. Doesn't really matter, but the spreadsheet I've created for the group is an ongoing Google spreadsheet that's available for members of the group. And I have a master list of every micro and mini that I'm aware of. There's several hundred on there, including heights, how tall it gets, what size grow bag or pot it likes. So it's really, it's been a labor of love for me. And I try to grow every micro that I can get my hands on. And it also will tell you which ones are easy to grow indoors, and when you get into mini dwarfs, it's not always that simple. When you really need like very tall grow lights, larger grow bags and all that. So I'm going to focus a bit more on micro dwarfs right now because they're just easier to grow indoors for the average person. You could do it on a windowsill. You really need a lot of light, a lot of sunlight to grow on a windowsill. If you don't, you can still grow them, but where a micro dwarf, like I will say, it gets as tall as 12 inches, it might just grow to be 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall, because it's growing towards the sun and trying to get light. So it's not really true to type, but you can do it. I've grown micro dwarfs on my kitchen windowsill, and you get fruit and it's fun, but they get really tall. So you want to keep that in mind. So I want to show you from start to finish. So what I like to use to start, I like these 2-inch pots. They're Bootstrap Famer, but you can really use anything. Now, if you've watched my other seed starting video, you will know that I am a big fan of starting with the soil half down when I start my seeds, and then continuously filling up to the top in order to build roots along the stem, which tomatoes love to do. Micro dwarfs are different. Micro dwarfs, I do not do that for in most cases. Maybe a mini dwarf, but they just don't get taller. This was started, let's see, about a month and a half ago. This is a variety called Toledo. As you can see, they're very stocky. So there's really no room to grow, to add soil up the stem rather. So I tend to fill up to the top, and you can grow it in this. You can really start it in any kind of pot you want. These are new from Bootstrap Famer, 3.3 inch by 3.3 inch. And obviously I start them there too. Oh, I forgot something. Be right back. I've got some started over here I wanted to show too. I tend to start 2 seeds at a time just out of habit. You could start 1. Most people, when you grow tomatoes, they say to do, I see Jake smiling, my camera guy. I know it's her in the background. She really loves to be on camera, doesn't she? So here's a cross that I'm working on, a micro dwarf that I'm creating, and I wanted to grow several different ones. So here I've started, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 in this pot. So you can really do, but out of habit, I tend to do 2 seeds per pot, just in case one doesn't germinate. I'm a big fan. If you've watched my other videos, I love, love, love this soil. It's called Fox Farm Ocean Forest. It's got all the good stuff in it that makes it so you don't have to fertilize that often. It's got worm castings, it's got kelp meal, it's got mycorrhizal fungi, it's got back guano, like really, really good stuff. So I will just take the pot, fill it right up to the top. I'm going to start 2 different seeds, I think, today. Right up to the top. It's not wet. You could do it damp. I tend to do it dry just to make it easier, and then I'll show you how I moisten. So the first one I'm going to start is Dwarf Patio Plum, which is this one that I already showed you. It's got these like kale looking leaves. It's very unique. Again, tomatoeden.net carries these, and it has been a beautiful, here's what they, well, I've got them right here. Here's what they look like. I forget what the sweetness or the bricks was on this. I did a live tasting on one of my shows a couple months ago, and I was really pleasantly surprised. A lot of micro dwarfs, I will be honest, don't have a lot of flavor. And that's where my spreadsheet comes in also, because I rate all of them. Some are super cute. Some are really novel. Some are like heart-shaped, and some, have tons and tons of fruit on them. I wish I had an example of that. I've got most of them growing outdoors right now because it is August. But for me, I'd rather have something that's short in stature to grow indoors. Short in stature, good production, which is what the Zusa Louis has. Really good production. This is like my second batch from one little plant I have over there. And tasty. I want tasty. If I'm going to use the valuable real estate of my home, and maybe you don't have a spot like me where I can have a lot of grow lights. Maybe you just have like one section of a counter, you can have one grow light. You want to make sure it's something tasty. At least I do. So this is Dwarf Patio Plum. I'm going to start from Tomato Eden. I'm going to, here's what this side looks like. TomatoEden.net. Big, big fan of TomatoEden.net. She's got a great, great selection of micro dwarfs, as does ForgottenHeirlooms.com. Our friend Ken Fry runs ForgottenHeirlooms.com. If you're looking for seeds, he's just restocked his shop with all kinds of new things. Phenomenal. So between him and TomatoEden.net, Meraki Seeds also has a great selection. So there are a lot of vendors. Again, if you're in TLC, we have a master list of micro dwarf vendors. So I'm going to use some Dwarf Patio Plum seeds that I had saved from the last time I grew it. So they're tiny. They look like regular tomato seeds. Nothing different about micro dwarf tomato seeds. Micro dwarfs are a special gene. They're not regular tomatoes. They really are just meant to be compact like that. By the way, this variety is called, I already said, Room Surprise. That's a new one for me. I got those from Graf Semena, Grafsemena from Ukraine, another new vendor that I really enjoy. So I'm just going to take my tweezers, or what you can do it with your finger too, and just drop them down, maybe a quarter of an inch, right into dry soil. I kind of do diagonal from each other. I don't know why. There's no need to, but you want to do it a little far apart. Maybe if they both germinate, and they do tend to most of the time, you want to keep both of them. And so in that case, like here, I've got 5 or 6. I want to grow all of these, and I want to separate them. So if you do it far apart, make it easier. And then make sure you label. And I like to put the date on also, just for my own record. So dwarf patio plum. This variety being so tasty was a big surprise to me. It didn't look like much. I mean, they're just really standard oval cherries, but they're delicious. Here, cameraman, taste one. Having that indoors in the winter is a nice treat. Okay, and the date today is August 4th, and I label it. And then the second one I'm going to do is a micro that I've created myself that is now in the F3 generation. I'm calling it Drop the Micro right now. My goal has been to create a micro dwarf that's small, that has big fruits that are tasty, and that looks cool. And that's what I'm working on. So I'm going to start seeds for this one now. And 2 in there, just in dry soil again. Label it. Speaking of generations, there are a lot of micro dwarfs out there that are what we call F1, which means they are hybrids. A lot of companies put out hybrid micro dwarfs. What that means is nothing. I mean, there's some really great hybrids. Where it gets tricky is if you want to save seeds and grow it again, it will never be the same variety. So for example, trying to think of an example here. There's a variety from the UK called Tarzan, which I grew. And it gave you, I've showed it in other videos, they give you some really nice big red cherries. I did save seeds and I grew it, and it's not the same. I mean, you could totally grow it again. You might like it, but you might not. So you want to pay attention if it has an F1 next to the name when you're purchasing it, or if it just says hybrid. Just make sure you know that that's not one that's really conducive to saving seeds. You can, but you won't. It may not even be a micro dwarf the next time you grow it out, because those seeds are specifically created to be a certain taste, a certain height. So sometimes it won't have that gene any longer. So you want to pay attention to that. Okay, let's drop the micro. So I've got these labeled. Now, they obviously need water. What I do in the beginning is I have a spritz bottle. You can do it with damp soil. I just find it, especially indoors, I find it really messy to be working with damp soil. By the way, I've got one of these. It's kind of crushed right now. You can get these on Amazon for like $14. It really helps for like up potting indoors. It helps keep the mess off your table, although you wouldn't guess it from the way this table looks right now. But Mr. Tomato Head got that for me a couple Christmases ago, and that is great for indoor potting up. For now, this blue thing, my friend Mrs. Wilson gave that to me from her husband's plastic shop. Okay, so we want to dampen it up. So I just spray. And I'm going to do that for a while. Not a while right now, but I mean, that's how I'm going to water in the beginning. Just enough to dampen it up where you know the seeds are getting damp. It doesn't have to be super wet. You don't want it super wet. Then eventually you're going to get these. I started, let's see, these were started July 25th. This is a F1 variety that my friend Kim sent me from Scotland. It's called Lilliput by a company called Franchi. and it looks great. I want to grow it indoors this winter. So I wrote F1 on the tag, designating that it is a hybrid. So eventually they're going to germinate like this. Oh, I should mention germination. Come on over here. I totally forgot about this part. Okay, I'm going to move this. I've got some lettuce growing here. Heat mats are your friend for germination. I've got this. There's a million different heat mats you can get on Amazon. I like the company VivoSun. By the way, all the products I'm talking about today, I will put in the show notes for this episode because you can use whatever you want, but I do have favorite things. So let me go get my tray. Sorry, cameraman. So I'm going to take my tray, and in the wintertime, I will fill this up because I like to grow a lot of micros indoors. I'm going to take my tray back over, and you don't have to have a heat mat, but especially in the winter when it's getting colder, possibly in your house, heat mats really aid germination. And then if you have one, humidity domes will keep it nice and moist in there. So I'll put a humidity dome over this entire thing, put it on the heat mat, take it off once a day, spritz it again to keep it moist. And hopefully, usually within a couple of days, most micros will germinate. There's a couple varieties like B times Macbeth, which has wild tomato in it, which will take longer most of the time, but just a couple days. Once it has germinated, like, let's go back over here. Once they've germinated, like Lily put here, you can actually take it off the heat and remove the humidity dome. If you don't have a humidity dome, by the way, you can also use plastic wrap just to keep it moist in there. Again, not completely necessary as long as you're keeping it moist. That's okay. So you're going to get this, and they will continue to grow. They won't grow very tall. So this is what, 6. These are about 10 days since I started them. So eventually they're going to look like one of these. And this is usually the time that I will keep it in the container until it's just kind of exploding out of it. And that's when I will up pot to something like this. Now there's generally 2 sizes that you would want to use for micro dwarfs that I've found are the best. In general, most of them, if it's a micro dwarf, will do great in 1-gallon grow bags, which is what this is. I've become a big fan. They're very new, but I like, in the same realm that I like starting my regular tomato seeds in taller than wider containers so I can add soil up. I love taller than wide grow bags for growing indoors. It helps you to fit more micros underneath your grow light. You can get, most of them tend to be like short and squat, but these are new by VivoSun, and I like them because they have Velcro on them. These are brand new, which will help you if you need to up pot to a larger container. Technically, you should be able to open this. I'm doing it wrong, that's why. But if it's a small micro dwarf, you shouldn't have to up pot from 1 gallon. Okay, so how do I up pot? Let's use, well, let's take Toledo here. Now let's do dwarf patio plum. Let's do dwarf patio plum. This one looks like it needs a larger container. So I will, again, use my Fox Farm Ocean Forest, and I will fill it up here. Not the best way to do it here. Fox Farm, I will tell you, and I'll be honest, it can get buggy. It's not buggy inside the bag or anything like that, but when you're growing indoors, you can get, what do they call them? Fungus gnats, I guess. Let me show you what I use. For me, it's totally worth it. It's not like an infestation or anything, but you can get these really cheap. They're sticky traps. Some of them have, you peel the paper right off technically. Not doing so well here today, am I, Jake? They're just yellow sticky traps that attract bugs. And then I like putting them on these bamboo sticks. You can get them where they have like a point in them already that you just stick in the soil. But I like the ones that you can put on bamboo sticks, and I'll try to find those links to you too. That way they can be raised up a little bit, because for micro dwarfs, having it directly down in the soil can be a problem. So I'll just stick it in a micro dwarf like this, and you will notice the fleas will be attracted to that. Okay. Some people say you should sterilize your soil to be able to not have bugs. But the problem with that is you get rid of all the good stuff in the soil. So I'm willing to deal with the bugs. And when I say it's minimal, at least for me, it's been very minimal. And I grow a lot of stuff indoors. So I'm going to fill it up just about to where this can be even with the top. Maybe one more scoop. Okay. Now I also do some amendments, add some other stuff, just like I do with my regular tomatoes. I'm a big fan of Neptune's Harvest crab and lobster shell. It gives, it's a slow release, it's granular, and it will do a slow release, giving your tomatoes much needed calcium. Love this stuff. Smells like a seafood store. So I'll just see it's halfway down there. And I'm going to do just a pinch of the crab and lobster shell right at the bottom. And I've always used mycorrhizal fungi, or at least the past 2 years, not always. Mycorrhizal fungi, which is basically mushrooms. And they've found that that's really healthy for the soil. I've been using it for a couple of years now, but I've recently discovered this brand very much by accident. It's called Bigfoot. I love it because it's got not only mycorrhizal fungi, but it's got kelp meal, it's got humic acid, it's got biochar. What else does it have? Worm castings. It's got a lot of good stuff all in one, so I don't have to use the Neptune's Harvest kelp meal alone. So this has all of it in it. The biochar and the humic acid are biostimulants, which helps with the root growth also, just like mycorrhizal fungi. So you want to use the granulated one when you're putting it right in the pot. So I do a small pinch of that on the bottom. And then I'll take this out of the pot. And you can see I've got this beautiful, very healthy root structure. And I'll often do a little pinch along the roots also. This is when having something below you is helpful. Put that in there. You can see it's even at the top, and then I will just fill it up. By the way, I should mention, when you get to this level, just spritzing the soil is not going to cut it. This is when you can either, if it's in a tray, you can bottom water, make sure it's got holes in the bottom. You can see this needs to be up potted because the roots are coming out. Or you can just pour water on top. Watering on the top, I will tell you, does tend to make things a bit more buggy. That's just the nature. You know, fungus gnats like moisture. So I'm going to show you a way that I bottom water too. You don't have to use grow bags. I should tell you that also. I have gone to all grow bag for my micro dwarfs, indoor and outdoor, although I do some in the green stock too. I was doing them. You can do them in 1.5 gallon pots. You know, you would think that grow bags would dry out more, but I found the opposite. And I like that grow bags stimulate air pruning. What air pruning is basically once the roots get to the end of the bag, they're not going to be circling around and strangling each other. They're going to stop. The air helps promote that. So I find it just gives for a much healthier micro dwarf tomato. All right, should have gotten a bigger scoop here. Now, when did I start this? Let's see, what stage are we at? So I started this, I guess I already said that, June 22nd. It's now August 4th, so 6 weeks or so, I guess, until it got to that level. But they all grow at different rates, so you'll be able to tell when it's much too big for its pot. All right, one more scoop here. All right, so you've got an amended soil. You're going to put your tag back in. Okay, how do I water these? Well, You can do it right on the top, like I said, with a pitcher, whatever you want to use. Let me show you. I'm going to take you to my bathroom and show you something I do with the grow bags. Also, this is important. You're going to need something underneath your grow bag. Let's go over here. Let me show you some I've already got growing. This is a candy berry I've had growing for quite a while. This is in a 2-gallon grow bag. I get these drip saucers that are perfect for this. This is that Zusa Louis with the really pretty yellow fruits. It's on its way out, which is why it looks terrible. But these saucers work great. You can also use 10 by 20 trays underneath. Really anything, but you want to have something underneath to catch the moisture for sure. I'll talk grow light. Make sure I talk grow lights. We don't want to forget that. Okay. So again, you can water on the top, or let me show you something. I'll take it to my bathroom, which is really gross because I do this in the bathroom. It's kind of like a plant bathroom, but I'll take it, put it under the faucet here, and I will lift up, if you can do this, lift up the tag. So it's going to sit in moisture for maybe 15 minutes. So I'm watering on the top, but it's also going to sit in water in the bottom to bottom water a bit. Probably not essential now because I just planted this, but when the plant gets bigger, having that bottom watering is great. So let's pretend it's just sat for 15 minutes. And then this is where the drip tray comes in handy. And now you need to put it under light. Let's talk grow lights. I have these great grow lights that I've been using for a couple of years. I've got 3 different companies here. They're all the same grow light, and I usually just get whatever is on sale. This one is Root Farm, which I think they've maybe stopped making them. Haven't seen them recently. This one's Black Magic, and over here's Arrow Garden. They are 45-watt tabletop lights. I love them. They are not cheap, I will tell you. I like them. They are adjustable. They go up and down. When should mention this also. When you're growing your micros and really any tomato, you want the light kind of as close, just a couple inches above the micro. You don't want it to get tall and leggy. It's not as important for micro dwarfs as it is for regular tomatoes, but I like these because they're adjustable. Sometimes micros get tall, and when that happens, I am creative. Here I've got 2 pots underneath the grow light so I can extend it even higher. And here I've got canned tomatoes, which are propping it up. And I will put links. The Arrow Garden and the Black Magic, you can find them on sale for as low as like $75 I've seen. If that's not in your budget, you can find all kinds of lights just like this on Amazon, which are $20, $30. That is one of my Drop the Micros up there, which is, that's the F2 version I've got going. That's an example of a plant that does better in a 2-gallon grow bag. And again, it's going to depend which micro you choose. Some of them are just fine in a 1-gallon. Some really need a larger one, like a 2-gallon. And that's really it. Then micros will take longer to ripen indoors than they do in the summertime. It's just fact. They won't taste quite as exceptional as they are under the sun, but you will notice that there's a lot less disease also. And there's just nothing like growing these little guys. This is another Drop the Micro that I've got, very different from that other one, but look at these cute little guys. Some micros are only 2, 3, 4 inches tall. Obviously, those don't put out a whole lot of fruit, but they're a lot of fun. So you don't have to get something that's huge like that. You can find something that works within the space you've got. What else did I want to tell you? They're just a lot of fun. A lot of people think they don't want to grow micro dwarfs. They have purchased it from Baker Creek, the orange hat, which is the only micro dwarf they have. And it's, in my opinion, probably the worst tasting micro dwarf there is. Don't let that sway you. There's Candy Berry, like I've got over here, is a delicious one. Vilma is one of my favorites. That Zusa Louis is a new favorite. Dwarf Patio Plum. Henry Harrington's dwarf cherry from New Zealand. You'll see on my spreadsheet all the different varieties you can get. I try to put the heights on there as much as possible. And that's it. And then you can enjoy your micro dwarf tomatoes, usually a couple months later. Some will ripen sooner than others. And there's a wide array of colors and shapes. Tiny Totem is another one I love. It only gets to be 12 inches tall, and you get these really small beef steaks that really taste good. And you can find information on that on my spreadsheet as well. And I think that's it. As far as fertilizing, I don't fertilize them a whole lot when they're indoors, but if they start looking like this, if they start looking funky, they definitely need something. The more you water, the more the nutrients in the soil get leached out of it. So how I fertilize once it's established is, again, let's go back over here. This Bigfoot stuff, they have a water soluble fertilizer. It's like one tablespoon of this per gallon. So I will mix 1 tablespoon in a jug like this, mix it around. It's black. It's not pretty, but it's good stuff, and pour it on top as far as fertilizing. And that will give you all the good stuff that it needs to grow healthy. You don't need to prune them. In fact, you shouldn't prune them like regular tomatoes. They just grow stocky and out, and the more you prune, the more you're taking off branches that can produce luscious cherry tomatoes. Taste candy berry here, Jake. This is, no, not that one. There you go. Let me tell you, in January, you're going to be happy you grew these. So I hope you give micro dwarfs a try. If you're welcome to ask me any questions. I consider myself kind of the queen of micro dwarf tomatoes, and I've grown hundreds of them, and I'm really happy to help. I want to introduce the world to the beauties of growing micro dwarf tomatoes, and I hope you found this helpful. Until next time, peace, love, get your gratitude on, and go grow micro dwarf tomatoes. Bye, gang.